Giants fans, it's week 4 of the NFL season. The Giants are playing the Saints, and you're watching True Blue Review, so let's get this going. First thing I want to do is I want to thank Mr. Big Dog for subscribing, as well as all the new subscribers. I want to thank you very much, but I owe Mr. Big Dog something special at his request. I owe him a Crown and Ginger, so I'm going to pour myself one right now. Thank you. And we'll just consider this not only in honor of Mr. Big Dog and all the new subscribers, but also in honor of the Giants having their first win last week and hopefully a second win this week. So listen, Giants are playing the Saints, start with. Last week, let me go back a little bit. Last week was a good week, okay? We realized we still have some offensive line issues. We need some help with Chad Wheeler, and when Red Ellison was there to help him out, it worked out well for us. Okay, he gave up 3 sacks to J.J. Watt, but we're past that now, aren't we? All right, we scored 20 points in the first half of last game, and that was a big plus too. So we came out with a win. So let's see what we have to do this week to get a win for this team. All right, first of all, we'll review some of the stats for the New Orleans Saints and the Giants. First and foremost, the Saints are 2-1, and the Giants are 1-2. Actually, I think the Saints ought to be 1-2, but the Browns stink. So, hey, even though they got their first win in 2 years. Okay, yards per game. The Saints, right now, they're averaging 428 yards a game. Okay, and the Giants are averaging 319 yards. We'll break that down later. Points per game, 34.7, 35 basically points for the Saints per game. And the Giants, they're around 18.5 to 19 points per game. And that bumped up because last game they scored 27 points. Congratulations, guys. We talked, again, before the game against the Texans, we talked about a balanced offense, and we indeed got that last week. So it did skew the put the Giants in there in more of a better percentage of reference to balanced offense. I think that's still key for this week, and I'll explain that in a little bit. Saints, on the other hand, are completely unbalanced, and it works well for them. They have a heavy passing offense, we know that, and they don't have really much of a rushing portion of that offense at all. They're 32% rushing, 68% passing, which is pretty close to where the Giants were before last game. The Giants, again, those numbers changed a little bit. They were close to 50% both ways this time. So this week they're 35% rushing, 65% passing, as opposed to 69% from last week. Third down conversions. Giants are 44% of third down conversions. I'm happy about that. It can be better, and hopefully this week it will be. Ranked 7th in reference to that. New Orleans are 40%, and they're ranked 15th. In red zone scoring, that's a big one. All right? And the Giants did well last week on that. Okay, Giants are up to 50%. I think last week they're around 44%, so they're up to 50%, and the Saints are at 73%. That's a big number, and that's where we want to be. So let's talk about the Saints offense. Drew Brees, that's the guy, right? That's the guy that runs the show, I'm going to put the coach aside. But Drew Brees, it's his offense. Okay. Drew's got a little over 71,000 yards passing in his career. Right now he's got 1,078 yards in the 3 games this season. Last week, 396 yards passing, 80% completion ratio. No interceptions. The first 3 games, 8 touchdowns. 8 touchdowns. No interceptions. That's big. Okay. Drew Brees likes to throw from the line of scrimmage to the 10-yard line. And then it's all yards after the catch. Okay. And this team has a lot of yards after the catch. Of that 1,078 yards he has, they've got about 520 or so yards after the catch. Okay, so that's a big thing. That's a key for this week as well. In reference to rushing, Alvin Kamara is the lead rusher, and he don't rush. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Out of 3 games, 37 rushes, 141 yards for a 3.8 yard average. He does have 2 touchdowns. Okay. But really, when you talk about Alvin Kamara, you're not talking about his rushing abilities. You're talking about his receiving abilities. Okay. This guy right now is on a heavy, heavy pace to break records. He's already got a record in reference to the 30 receptions over the first 3 games. And with that 30 receptions, he's got 289 yards, and it's a 9.6 yard average with 1 touchdown. Okay. Kamara's, he's definitely getting noticed. This is his 2nd year in the league. And I don't think he did a whole lot last year. And they're building this offense around him, seemingly. In reference to being a receiver, Michael Thomas is supposed to be the main receiver of theirs, and he's doing a fine job as well. He has 38 receptions for 398 yards and 3 touchdowns. And here's a nice thing, too, for the Giants. He's got 2 fumbles. Okay, so we know that the guy can drop the ball on the ground. So we want to key on that this week. Let's talk about, there's tight end Ted Ginn. He's someone that we should keep an eye out for. He's a 12-year pro. And what do we know about the Giants? Granted, it is somewhat a new team. They always get scored on by tight ends. Okay? So he's not going to be much different. And then also another tight end is Benjamin Watson. He's 15-year pro, 250 yards. Again, that's a big boy, or 250 pounds. Sorry, that's a big boy right there. You might see him on the line a little bit more if the Giants go to a blitzing defense. In reference to their to some other offensive notes, they've given up 5 sacks. Okay, all right, boy, I wish it was the 12 the Giants have given up, but I think we'll have to put a little bit of pressure on Drew Brees. But they've only given up 5 sacks. Okay, so they give him time to throw. They're number 4 on yards per game. 428. All right. Let me check on that one. And then yards after the catch, we talked about it. It's almost 520 yards, actually. So, Saints defense. Okay. They are 30th in total yards per game allowed at 421 yards. Okay. And then number 1 in points allowed per game. Now, that's not a real great thing, okay? That means they're the worst. They give up the most points at 34 points per game. They do have 6 sacks. Their big guy is Cameron Jordan, and you can bet he's going to be beating up on Chad Wheeler, okay? So we got to keep an eye out for him. Their heavy tackler is Demario Davis. He's got 26 overall tackles. And, he's doing pretty good. They have 3 fumbles and 1 interception this year, so 4 turnovers. So now let's go to the Giants offense. Okay. In points per game, they're ranked number 27. We talked about that. They're a little over 18 points per game. In reference to yardage per game, 319 yards a game, and they're ranked number 24. All right. In rushing yards per game, 88 rushing yards at rank number 25. And in passing yards per game, 232, ranked number 17. All right. Eli Manning has 3 touchdowns and 1 interception, 800 yards. 800 yards passing for the year. Okay. 73.6% completion ratio is pretty darn good, and he's been sacked 12 times. That's pretty darn bad. Okay, Saquon Barkley, rushing, 46 rushes, 216 yards rushing. Yards per carry, 4.7 yards per carry. That's not good. And that puts him down at the bottom of the league. We need him to get that up, and hopefully this week he will. Receiving yards. He's got 21 receptions for 137 yards, and that's a 6.5 yard average. Okay, well, we know he's going to get his receptions, but also yards after catch are a big thing with him. We need to do that. We need to use that 1 to 10 yard radius just like Drew Brees does, and it worked well for us last week. OBJ, receiving, 24 receptions, 261 yards, 11 yards per reception. I'd like to see that get up to around 15 yards a reception. That would be really nice. No touchdowns for him. Okay. Offensive notes. Offensive line gave up 4 sacks last week. Chad Wheeler gave up 3 of those. All right. So we want to make sure that we give him some help on that line. I still want to keep a balanced offense. Keep a balanced offense. We need to rush the ball. We need to chew time up on the clock. The more clock we use, the less Drew Brees is on the field. Okay? But we need to make sure we're scoring too, and that's not 3 points. I don't want to see I don't want to see Rosas at all unless he's kicking point afters. Okay? There is a change in the tight end. When we go through the injury report, we'll talk about that. Giants defense, 343 yards per game allowed. That puts them right in the middle of everybody else. Okay. 20 points allowed per game is not bad. It's not bad. Okay. And that ranks them 20th. 2 interceptions and 1 fumble recovery this year. And I think that this is a perfect opportunity for the secondary to pick a few balls out. Janoris Jenkins, please hear me. And maybe even Dante Dion. We might see some out of him. We need to focus on the linebackers to complete their tackles. I think that's a big thing, especially with Kamara. He sheds tackles just like Barkley does. Okay? So when you hit him first, you got to take him down. Because once he gets past the first one, just like Barkley, you know he's going to pick up another 5, 6, or maybe even break it down the field. And the guy's got speed. So really, I think yard after catches, the defense has to focus on keeping those to a minimum for the New Orleans Saints. All right, so let's talk about injuries. Eli Apple is out. Hopefully he'll be back next week. He's got a groin. Evan Ingram is out. We know this. So there's a new tight end that was brought in. He's a rookie. His name is Garrett Dickerson. He's a big boy, by the way, 6'2", 255 pounds. Apparently he's got some really good hands, but he's not much of a blocker for being that big a guy. We'll see how he does. I'd like to see him do well. Corey Latimer is out. Okay, Russell Shepard will be in his spot. Okay, so you'll have Shepard here and Shepard there. Just a bunch of Shepards on the fields. And then Olivier Vernon again is out, and hopefully he'll be back in the next week or so. Jonathan Stewart is on injured reserve. He's gone. I wonder how much that cost us. All right. So, again, some of the keys to the game. We talked about ball possession, keeping Drew Brees off the field. Rhett Ellison. Okay, we need him to help out Wheeler again. Very necessary. 3rd down conversions. Those are going to be big. If we're going to hold on to the ball, the only way we can do that is by keeping the 3rd downs going. Getting through those. And scoring in the red zone. For defense, put some pressure on Drew Brees, Keon Kamara, and Thomas. Your 2 receivers, 1 out of the backfield, obviously. Tackle on first contact. We talk about that. Minimize big plays. Nothing 30-plus down the field. And again, if you're watching those tackles, then we can keep everything up close. And obviously, the safeties and cornerbacks are going to be very busy this week. I know that's really quick, but there was a lot of information I wanted to run through. I want to thank you for viewing. And Tin Cannon, that's my beer. Mr. Bad Dog, thank you very much. Love you. Go Giants. I'm out.